Shaunie Henderson, the ex-wife of Shaunie O'Neal, drops bombshells in her new tell-all book, and the tea is piping hot. Welcome to Fly Nubian Money, where we help Black women master their mindset and maximize their money. I am Laura Key. I am an international real estate agent, and I am joined today by my fellow queens, Athena Gardner, Dr. Alicia Watkins, and Linda E., and also Tiara Williams. Hi, ladies. How are you? Good to see you today.
Great.
Guys, we've discussing some pretty hot tea today. Listen, I had to look up this person because I'm not really into a lot of drama stuff. So Shaunie Henderson is just released her book this week, and some people are calling it a tell-all. But her book is entitled Undefeated, Changing the Rules and Winning on My Own Terms. So before we dive into this tea, I kind of want to tell you, for those who's also watching us, who is she? Like, you hear this name being thrown around, but who is she? Well, she is the creator of Basketball Wives. She is the CEO of Memoir Incorporated. She is the ex-wife of Shaquille O'Neal, and they have 4 children together, ages 18 to 24. She divorced him in 2011, and they were married for about 9 years. She is currently married to Pastor Keon Henderson, who has currently got his own little drama going on in the online world. And she's a podcaster alongside her husband and a media mogul. So ladies, this is an interesting topic today. It has a little bit of drama, a little bit of tea, and a little bit of money-making aspects to it. So let's dive into it. Shaunie's book, which was out just this week, it's only been out a couple of days. It already has great reviews, says some things that are questionable and being picked up what I like to call TMZ style, because they're focusing on her marriage with Shaquille O'Neal. So I've got a lot of questions for you because I want to hear what you have to say. Linda E., do you know who this is? And are you planning to buy or read this book?
I'll be honest with you. I'm not planning to read her book. I'm not planning to buy it. I'm not planning to have it given to me as a gift. I don't really know who she is. Like, I'm sorry, I don't know this man. But seriously, I only know her as the ex-wife of him, and I didn't know she actually created Basketball Wives. I was like, okay, she's a media mogul. She's making her money. She is successful in her own right. Did she need to do this book? Did she need to go and spill, that she didn't really love him? I don't know. I don't know who that's benefiting, but I'm sure she has a lot of smart financial advisors around her. And maybe someone said, hey, look, the author business is booming right now. Get something out there that will get the people going. So maybe that's why she thought this was a good idea. Personally, for me, it's something I'll happily miss. I'm sorry.
You know what's interesting? I purposely did not say the hot thing that she said. I just said that it was the buzz, and you picked up on that immediately because that's what's swirling around in the media. The thing that people are talking about is her saying she wasn't really sure she was in love with Shaquille O'Neal, even though they were married for 9 years and have 4 children together. So, Dr. Alicia, I got a question for you. Since you do therapy, do you think this is smart to put your marital business out there, even though she's married to someone else, but yet she still has children with this ex-partner? How does this dynamic play into this?
Okay, so I'm gonna read this memoir. By the way, I want to say that because when I look at the background of Shaunie, I look at somebody who's a winner, and anybody who knows me knows I love to study winners. Looking at and hearing you list out all of the things that she's accomplished, I had no idea that she was the mastermind under Basketball Wives. I had no idea. That tells me that she's really intelligent. She has 4 children who are doing well. She's married to this great pastor and has this wonderful podcast. I want to hear what she has to say. Now, one thing I want to say is let's distinguish a memoir from a tell-all book. So like a tell-all book is really about exposing and tarnishing someone's reputation, which, by the way, I know Shaquille O'Neal was the subject of a tell-all book, right? It wasn't meaningful. It was really trashy. It just talked about how this lady was sleeping around. I can't even remember her name right now, but she was sleeping around with a whole bunch of people and wrote a book about it. That's different from a memoir. A memoir. Yes, Karen Stevens, yes. So her book was sort of like a tell-all book, where a memoir gives us a journey where you start one place and you end at another place, how you've overcome something. And that, as a therapist, is something I'm excited about. So I am definitely going to read this memoir, and I'm definitely going to be pulling out pearls of wisdom from a lady who's been very successful in 2 marriages.
But how do you feel this affects the kids, though? I mean, the kids are still fairly young. With this kind of title flowing around, I mean, I know she's got a lot of really good things going for her. When I researched her, I was like, she sounds like a powerhouse to me. But, you know, sometimes things can flow negatively on the children. I mean, 18 to 24 is still fairly young.
Okay, so here's the thing. I know that Shaquille O'Neal has done a couple of interviews reflecting on his marriage to Shaunie, and he has said it was all me. I was the reason why the marriage didn't work. Like, I understand that she probably felt like she didn't love me because I was not lovable. So sometimes when you're not lovable, how are you going to be around and be married to somebody when you're cheating on them all the time, when you're not being the best husband you can be or the best spouse you can be to somebody? I think it's a beautiful sense of courage and vulnerability to be able to say, you know what, I understand why she felt like it was difficult to love me, because I wasn't very lovable. I wasn't the best partner that I should have been. And I totally regret that. So I see it as just a great way to teach your children a lesson. You know, children do not expect us as adults to be perfect. They expect us as adults to be able to reflect on our imperfections and to acknowledge them and to go forward. We're not perfect. So if anything, I think this sets a great example for all of us, not just the children, on how to behave healthy in relationships.
I find that very interesting. I totally actually agree with you on that. And I at first didn't think I wanted to read this memoir, but I'm an audiobook freak. And I actually went to go listen to some of her clip. And she is the reader. So she didn't hire someone else to read her book. She's telling her own story. That's more fascinating to me. And so I think I am also going to read the book. And I think that's really important that she is showing her and Shaquille and Pastor Keon are all together in a unit in the fact that Shaquille actually did come out and support all of this. And I think that they're all co-parenting very well. One thing that is not known is, well, maybe it's known, Pastor Keon is also divorced. He's been divorced and he has a child and he's co-parenting with his ex-wife as well. So I think they're actually kind of setting the stage for what needs to be done for our children. We don't have to be perfect. We have to show responsibility for our actions, right? Athena, I haven't heard from you yet, and I love to hear your take. I know you like the tea, and I know you like the reality shows and all of that. Did you watch Basketball Wives at all?
I watched the earlier seasons, which I think was much better. The last few seasons, I haven't been really much interested in the show. Once Tammy got off the show, I felt like it went downhill for me personally, because I felt like Tammy kept it real. And I think the original cast had a certain zhuzh that nowadays doesn't have. But what I will say, and I want to offer a different perspective, I have a lot of respect for Shaunie, because especially as a basketball wife or married to a man of wealth, it is easy for you to just relax and kick up your feet and say, you know what, I don't want to have to do this. I could just raise the kids. Shaunie, throughout her experience, has decided to be a businesswoman, and she's a CEO of Amira Inc. She makes her own money. She also owns a cannabis business, and she also works on a podcast with her now husband. So she has, I'm sure she's doing a lot of other things outside of the book. So she has a lot of iron in the fire, and I think she can provide a great example of, you know, really taking your talents and your experiences and monetizing that. And this is flying Nubian money. So that is very important. And we should all take a page out of that. What I also feel like when it comes to Shaunie is that she is monetizing her story, and there's nothing wrong with that. I feel like if there are people on the internet blogging, writing articles about your life, then what is wrong with the opportunity for you to capitalize that and also tell that story within your own voice? Lastly, I also believe that, you know, people always have an issue when the woman does a memoir. When the men write books, it's always well received, but when the woman writes something and it critiques the man in particular or shines a light on the marriage that might not be great, it is always not received well. And we have to question, what is in society or culture when a woman has something that's not particularly positive to say about a man or a marriage? I remember when Jada came out with her book, you know, heads were rolling because, you know, she didn't really paint it in a light that was positive. And while I'm not married, my parents have been married for 40 years. And anyone who has endured marriage knows that it's ebbs and flows and ups and downs. And I admire people who will risk certain criticism or critique to give us insight into what marriage really is. It's often romanticized, and there's often challenges that need to be overcome. So I respect her for sharing her story.
I do too, because today people can just take your story and run with it and know nothing about you. And you can take control of your own story and tell it the way that it's been told, which leads me to my next question. Tiara, you're in film, you do film producing. Do you think that absolutely everything has to be in a reality setting TV? This is not the only thing she's done. Basketball Wives is not the only thing. She actually did a 3 or 4 part series about her wedding to Pastor Keon, and they sold it on VH1. So what are your takes on how you're kind of living this reality world? Is it feasible for regular people like us to look at that? And does that really constitute a power couple? Can't hear you.
We can't hear you.
Can't hear you.
I was ready to talk too. That's a great question. But just as a producer or a producer that has produced reality TV for quite some time, I spent 11 years working on lots of reality shows. And obviously those things are manipulated in certain ways. And we're looking for a story as we go. We're looking for sound bites. We're looking for different things. So, you know, I would just say you can't believe in that situation. You can't believe everything that you watch. And I know that for a lot of those early like Basketball Wives and Love and Hip Hop, that wasn't like fighting and beating each other up. Every scene wasn't the intention of the shows initially. I think they just, you know, people are attracted now to drama and the negative sides, but you know, they also see it as an opportunity to kind of, like you said, spin a narrative or, you know, tell their stories in one way. But I think she, you know, obviously she didn't just tell her story in that way. She, you know, she took the opportunity to then have a podcast and all of the things. But I just kind of wanted to, even to back up a little bit, you said I love what all the ladies have contributed. I wanted to just talk about the conversation of her being like a gold digger and, you know, all the negative things that I saw on the internet. And I think we have to think about when Shaunie was married to Shaq, they were very young. And here's a woman, they're married to this, I mean, Shaquille O'Neal is a superstar. He has been that way for a very long time. To try to keep up with his lifestyle, try to keep up with what, you know, what he's been doing and basketball and him being on the road and him and all the women. I can understand how someone could say like, you know, I don't know, being so young and not being loved properly. I can see now that I'm in a marriage where I am being loved properly. I can trust my husband. I saw her say something about her being completely like trusting with her husband. And I think that just sets up a different tone to the relationship altogether, right? It just, obviously she's not broke. She's not doing this because she wants to, you know, make money. But I think you know, it's like I wasn't being loved properly at that time. And I thought that that was love. I was obsessed with the idea of building a family. And I don't know who isn't young thinking like, I want to build with my husband and I want to do all these things and we're going to have kids and then we're going to do all the, you know, that's what we're in, as women from the early ages, right? We have Barbies and we're like Ken and Barbie and they're going to be together and I'm going to be together like Ken and Barbie. Like we're trained that way. So I can see her being a young woman like, oh yeah, this is what my life is about to be. And I'm sure she worked hard to stay in it. But being with a man who is all over the place and doing all the things, and you know, I just could see how she could say, I never trusted him. And I know you didn't ask me that, but I just wanted to add that also to the conversation, that being young and not really knowing what love is all the time until you get a little bit more mature, you can be like, okay, that was love, but that wasn't love. That wasn't love. I just had his children and maybe I have love for him, but I don't know if he's ever made me feel like Keon has made me feel. And I feel like that is, that's valid, you know?
That's a very important part. One thing that stood out to me when she talked about that is one day she woke up and she realized that all the things that she had in that home when she was married to Shaq belonged to him. It didn't belong to her. She had nothing to her name and her finances were not on track. And she was like, if something should happen, none of this is mine. And she wanted her own. And that brings us to a good topic. And it's, are you confused about what you need in your financial life? Well, maybe you're dreaming of buying a home. Maybe you're dreaming of buying a new car, or maybe you just want to pay for your children's higher education. Our sponsors at the Black Business School are offering a free AI stock list, and it's curated by financial advisors, and it's going to help you to navigate the changing landscape of the market. So if you want this, it's really simple. Get your personal assistant now, and I'm going to give you a number to text. So you want to text Queens to 87946, and you're going to receive your free investment list today. So if you're just
87948. 879.
And that's, we're going to change that now on the paper. 87948. It got lost in translation. So let's say that again. Get your personal assistants out and text Queens to 87948.
Yes.
Okay. Listen, if you're just tuning in, you need to know that you're watching the Fly Nubian Money. And my name is Lala Key, and I'm joined by my co-queens. But what I forgot to do at the beginning of the show, and I'm going to take the time to do it now, is introduce them one more time and let you know what they do. Because they're not queens for nothing. We walk around with our crowns, but they've got special things in their crowns. So let's talk about it. I'm joined by Athena Gardner. She's a certified public accounting, a CPA. I'm joined by Dr. Alicia Watkins, who is a trauma specialist and a couples coach. I'm joined by Linda E., who is an actress, model, and presenter. And I'm joined by Tiara Williams, who is a film producer. And we together got a lot to say about this wonderful topic that is out about another queen who just came out with her book. Now, I'm glad that you touched on, Dr. Alicia. You said you don't really feel that this is a tell-all book. I don't either. I actually feel like it's a life journey. And we all have been there. And I also saw a lot of negative comments around the girl is always going to get the bag. And, you know, it's not always that. You have a picture of your life. I feel like we were taught when we're young, you want the fairy tale wedding, you want the fairy tale husband, you want the fairy tale life. And we find out later on that may not necessarily be our narrative for our life. We all have a different life journey. So with that being said, how can you equate this? I want to ask you, Dr. Alicia.
Okay.
Can you equate this to something in your life that you thought you wanted before, but then you found out that it was something else that you wanted in your life to make you happy?
Yeah,
it wasn't the same vision board. That's what I like to say. In my 20s, my vision board looked totally different what it looks like now.
Yeah, and the fact that it looks different, it's okay. It's supposed to look different. You're supposed to not be the same person that you were in your 20s. I mean, think about Shaunie's story. both her and her current husband had a marriage that failed, and now they took the courageous effort of getting married again. We all can relate to that story of loving and losing somebody. Think about Shaunie's story also, where she got married and had children in her 20s, early 20s. She actually had 2 children with Shaquille O'Neal before they got married. I mean, think about the decision that it takes for someone to get married like that after you have 2 children with that person. And you always tend to wonder, is this person marrying me because they really love me, or are they marrying me for the children? And you just don't know. I mean, I think as a marriage therapist, I always encourage couples to really get down to the real reason on why they decided to get married to each other. Was it really driven by love, or is it driven more by a sense of obligation because of the presence of children? So I think it's just helpful to reflect on that, because unconsciously underpinning the relationship, you're always wondering, God, would this man have married me if I didn't already have children? So, I mean, there's a lot of complex issues that's deeply rooted into why couples are together, why they stay together. And I think it's important for couples just to be able to dissect that and just have nice, open, honest conversations. Some people can't do it, and so they get a therapist or someone that can help navigate these conversations. But I think her story is a great inspiration because so many of us can relate to it. I was married. You talked about myself. I've had a previous marriage that didn't work, but it's okay, because as long as you can look back on it and say, you know what, I learned these lessons. I'm going to take these lessons with me forward and not make the same mistakes that I made before. I mean, it's all a life journey. And how beautiful is it to be able to document our life journey in a memoir? I think everybody needs to write a memoir. All of us have a memoir story within ourselves, our journey, our story. We all need to spend some time and reflect on our life and how we've overcome, how we've transitioned. You are never the same person that you were before you're married, after you're married again. All of these transitions help to create, and you grow as a person. And that's something that should be documented, because I can read Shaunie's story and learn lessons from it. And she can, it's at the end of it all, she, to me, in marrying this man, it looks like real authentic love here. She's developed, she's chronicled her story, and now she's this big, successful businesswoman doing her own thing. She's somebody I look up to. She's beautiful and just has these wonderful children and a great co-parent. Seems like a co-parent situation with Shaquille O'Neal, who seems to really have deep level of respect for her, which is beautiful. That's a beautiful signal to all other baby daddies out there. Have a sense of respect for the woman who gave birth to your children. Just little things like that. There's so many pearls of wisdom attached to Shaunie's story, and I'm here for it. I love it.
I do too. I think even in marriage, I've been married for 31 years. You grow even within that. I mean, in my 20s, our marriage looks different than what it does now when we're older. I mean, we've settled into this happiness where, when I first got married, I thought I'm supposed to be around my husband all the time. I'm supposed to be right by his side. No, you know what? When he needs to go, he needs to go. And when I need to go, I need to go. And there's beauty in the fact that we can go and do what we need to do to refresh and rejuvenate and live our life journey purposes as well, and then come back together and live that together. And I think that she understood that, and I think that she actually has that with Pastor Keon now. But Athena, you're single, and so I find it interesting, and I'd like to know, when you look at the word power couple, when you see that in the news, because that's become such a cliche. Power couple, they're doing it together. What is your view of a successful marriage? And is this narrative that she has put out in her memoir something that you see as encouraging, or something that is attention seeking?
I think that when I was in my earlier 20s, and I'll give a brief background, I've been engaged before, and I was engaged to a pastor, actually. So I had my little what I call my first lady training situation going on. So it's always interesting to see, like, Shaunie, with a pastor, because I very much know what that transition must have been like to go and enter into that world. When I think of power couples, so when I was younger, I always had this idea, or that I'd be partnered with someone and we will do the power couple thing. But as I've matured and grow older, I don't necessarily like the title, because I don't want to put that much pressure on my relationship to produce in that way. My view of love and relationship at this point in time is that I want to be able to enjoy my partner, and whatever he does, as long as he's happy in that and an expert in that, that is fantastic. And I'm happy, and we support each other in what I'm doing. So I'm not necessarily looking for us to have to be this like image or cookie cutter thing, because sometimes, the image, having to live up to that image, brings its own weight and can kind of deteriorate a relationship. And then there have been men who had, dated throughout the years that have come to me with those type of ideals. And then what always ended up happening was I just felt like they wanted to like benefit off my clout, which I think to some degree Pastor Henderson is doing through his marriage with Shaunie. A lot of the men, I think, from the being in that pastor church world, when they're looking for wives or women to be their first ladies, they're really looking for women who are going to elevate their status in some way, who's a socialite, who will be able to like bring, take her to the gala for, the congregation, people love you, and for you to, attract wealthy congregation members so the tithe money can be paid up. So when that happened, I understood why he picked her, or why that situation worked, because that tends to happen a lot. And that was an issue of contention when I did premarital counseling right before I got married. I'm not married, right before I ended that whole engagement. That was a point of contention, because I didn't want that whole world is like it's a job. To be honest with you, if you are married to any kind of public figure, whether it's a pastor or a senator or whatever, that role is a job. And I think
that's a whole job.
I learned it's a whole job. And I think Pastor Henderson, I think that's what he selected her for. But the power couple thing, I wish that we focus more so on who we are as people to each other versus what our field or career or accomplishments can bring to each other. I don't like for relationships to be that transactional.
That's interesting, because I feel like when we got married, we were so young. Neither one of us had anything, right? Nothing at all, which is interesting because she came into the marriage already with some wealth, right? I looked up her net worth, and it's 35 million.
In the beginning, she came in.
Well, she still came in. I don't know if she came
with Keon.
Yes, with Keon.
Okay.
This is when she realized she needed her own money, and she had done the Basketball Wives and all that. So she came into the relationship with 35 million. And I looked up Pastor Keon's worth, which is about 8 million, according to the statistics that I looked up today. I don't think that's a dynamic for them, but we know that she at least has 35 million. And I'm sure that's not all that was made from her media company. So I don't doubt that she also invests in stocks that are not just for the rich. It can be done by the everyday person. And our sponsor, the Black Business School, is offering a free AI stock list curated by financial experts to help you navigate and change and look at the changing landscape of the market. And you need to take out your personal devices again, because if you didn't do it the first time or you're just joining us, you need to make sure that you text the word Queens to, let me make sure I get it right this time, because I'm not going to get smacked on it. Get it out. Text the word Queens to 87948, and you won't be sorry. Okay, let's get back to her net worth.
You know what, though? Yeah. I like the idea of just to respond to what Athena said. I like the idea. I think I still, as a single woman, love the idea of power couple, right? Because I know just like in terms of me having things to offer another person and wanting them to elevate me as well, and us to just kind of work. I think I still have the dream of building. I want to say, when I went to college, there were women that were at school that were literally trained to go there and find like a husband, right? Like it's crazy because I think I'm just going back to this whole idea of like why people marry, because there's some conversation out there. I think I see something in the comments that basically say like she married Shaq for money and she married only because of his status. And I'm just to go back to that for a second. And it just kind of triggered a thought in like wanting to marry someone and be secure, right? I think we as women, we need security. As people marry for different reasons, but when you think about the idea of getting married, you're like, okay, I want to feel protected. I want to feel secured. I don't want this to be a struggle love. Like, other cultures do it all the time. I mean, there's arranged marriages where it's like this wealthy person is going to marry this girl and they're going to get together, and it doesn't matter if they, like people do it all around the world. People do, that's the kind of the purpose for marriage. Like, why get in a situation that's not going to make you better, or that you can't build with someone with, like, why get in it if you're not going to be better? So power couple me, baby. Please.
Me too.
Me too. Power couple me.
I'm in a power couple.
Yeah, I was gonna say, okay, how about you, Linda? Like we talk about that, but would you want to build with someone from the beginning, or would you want someone to already come into your relationship with something?
So I'm a newlywed. I got legally married last year. We had our Nigerian ceremony in February, right? And I completely agree with Tiara. Why would you look? Love definitely exists, right? I definitely believe in love. And I saw a comment that says fairy tales don't exist. And I believe that. I don't think there's anything wrong with marrying someone who you're not going to have a struggle love with. Why would you want to get into a situation where things are going to be worse for you? That makes sense to nobody. So my husband, thank God, he is an incredible man who makes me feel protected, both financially, both physically, both emotionally, both spiritually. And funnily enough, he works behind the camera as a producer. I work in front of the camera as a presenter, model, actress. So we're a perfect match. And for us, we are building together. When you marry, the whole point is to build a legacy. If you don't want to build a legacy, then I would say don't get married. And I'm not saying that you can't, build legacies in relationships without being a married couple. But the whole point of marriage is union. And why would you want to unite in a situation that would only be worse for either of you? So I'm not saying, yes, be a gold digger. And if that was what you want to do, look, I can't be mad at you, because they always say money can't buy happiness, but I would much rather cry in a Benz than cry in a bus. Right? So if that's what you're going for, fine. And they're definitely, I'm lucky. I've married someone that I love, who is in a position where I'm happy with. Do you know what I mean? Marry what you're happy with. But I don't think it's wrong for women to want to marry someone who has money. I do want to caveat back as well to a quick thing that was mentioned about, her memoir and her telling us about her life. And I find it really, really interesting because her memoir and her truth is being celebrated. And what is the difference between her saying this in her memoir and her saying on Instagram or Twitter? Our previous topic on another show was about what's that singer's name? I'm loving a big R&B old R&B fan, but he's a famous singer and he's come
Brian McKnight.
That's the one. So Brian McKnight said some horrible things about his children. So my thing is, if he had written it in a memoir, would it now be okay because he's telling his truth and we're here going through his journey? For me, Shaunie coming out and saying that she didn't love him, I don't think that was necessary. I think she can tell her story and influence people positively. And yes, a gold digger is a term.
I love this comment. I love this comment. This comment's giving me life.
Yeah, honestly, right? So I feel as though, yes, she is definitely someone that people can learn from, both male and female, especially what she has achieved. But why do you need to bring that to public attention? I don't need to know that. me knowing that she didn't really love Shaq isn't going to make me feel any better or change any of the dynamics in my relationship and my marriage. Focus on your front. If you're really happy with your pastor, my friend, focus on that. You didn't need to tell us the rest of that. I don't, that's why I'm just like, I'm telling you, it was financially motivated. Someone said to her, books sell, sprinkle a little something in there that will catch the reader's attention, because that's the reason people are talking about it. So look, she has her own money, she's doing her thing, but I don't think she just released her memoir for the good of her soul. I do not believe that. I believe there was some financial gain, and there's nothing wrong with doing things for financial gain. But let's not say, because, well, we can say everyone's entitled to their opinion, but I just find it interesting that when something is, for me, unnecessary, but it's put in a particular way, we can accept it and celebrate it. But when something is put in the public domain in another way, we can't accept it, and we're just like, what's going on? Do you know what I mean?
She said she was not sure. She said she was not sure. She didn't say, I never loved him. Like, we gotta make sure, like, that's a big difference, right? I'm not sure if I ever loved him or not. Like, I'm not sure if that was real love or not. I mean, even though we went through all of these things, the marriage was toxic. He was cheating with women on the road. She was at home. Listen, I have, and I'm not going to tell these people's business, but I know some famous people, right? And I know their wives. And I remember this one really famous comedian. I did a radio show with his wife. And she was talking about like how she was at home most of the time with the children. She was like, I would just lock myself in a room and cry, and the kids would be outside the door crying, and they were new. I was like, wow. Like, she was like, he was cheating on women, and I helped him build it. And he was like, I mean, you could just tell that there was so much going on. Now, that same woman today is so happy because, she is no longer connected to that comedian. That comedian is very, very famous. Right. And she's going off and doing her thing and doing what she knows. But now they're happily like co-parenting. But I remember that time when she was like, this is awful. And you could tell she was just in a really dark place. So to sit in something just for money, I think it's also telling like women not to just sit in situations that you are unhappy with and take it because you said that I'm going to marry, like I'm going to do this. I'm going to stay in it, even if it kills me. You know what I mean? Even if it's unhealthy, even if it's toxic. You have toxic situations, and you're like, I think it makes sense that she would say, I'm not sure if I loved him if he was putting her through all kind of toxic things. I guess that's what I'm saying. I actually salute that for her, not staying in it.
Yeah, I do too, because you know what? I have a lot of family members. I grew up in a really small community, and a lot of my aunties and uncles stayed married their whole life. That was my model of seeing that happen. But I do know that there were some that were not happy, and they stuck around because they didn't know what to do. And so what purpose is it if you can't live your life in peace and in your truth? And I feel like she is definitely living in her truth. Now, there was a comment that I find very interesting. I'd like to hear your take, Dr. Alicia, on this one, because I want to know if this is a double-edged sword. Someone, The Truth, said, if a man came out and said, I don't think I ever loved my ex-wife, he would have been dragged through hell by these women. These women are riding for this woman. Why? When she admitted she wasn't good herself. So how is this a double-edged sword? I'm loving how people are, they want to make sure that they blame her too. She never said she wasn't without fault.
I don't know. Where is the love? If you're married to somebody and you don't care about their body so that you go and you have intercourse with other women on the street, where's the love there? Where's the love? I mean, maybe men don't put it in those words, but their behavior indicates whether there's love there. And the whole thing with the power couple, because I know some people think that Boyce and I are a power couple. And I mean, that's a great byproduct. But the biggest thing with Boyce and I is that, listen, I married him for love. Love is the foundation and the basis of the reason why I married him. So being a power couple, if people can say that about me and Boyce, it's just a byproduct of something that is true love. And trust me, if I did not love him, I wouldn't be with him. Like, it really is love, and love has to be tested. And as all marriages, your love is tested. And I am with that man because I absolutely love him. Whether we're a power couple and we do all these wonderful things and build a legacy, which we talk about, that's a byproduct. But the basis me, where I'm coming from, is based in love. So let the power couple and all those other ideas of a marriage, let that just be something that just happens secondary. But if you base your marriage on love, that helps you get through anything. So I just want to make that point there. I want to talk about a little bit about vulnerability, because think about it. When Shaunie finally woke up and said, hold on, I got these small children. And I don't know if any of you all have ever had small children before, but she's got 4 small children. What that does to your body to have Shaquille O'Neal's children, I'm sure they weren't like little tiny babies. What it does to your body to have to, and what it just does to you psychologically, emotionally, to care for children. Yes, you can have nannies and all the support in the world, but you want to be the person that's connected to these people. To have your husband travel like this for work and go and sleep around. And these probably weren't ugly women he was with, right? She's hearing stories about that. And you know you're not looking the same way that you did before. I can't even imagine psychologically what that did to her. To be pregnant, to file for divorce and then decide I'm going to give him another chance after he cheated.
Yeah.
You can't tell me that's not on some level, some love for him. Probably loved him more.
And that's what's not being said. People are not talking about how she did file for divorce and then said, no, I'm going to step back and try this again. That is love. That is trying to get it worked out.
She gets, like, I give her a gold star for saying, you know what, let's continue to work on this. You know, let's continue. And she tried for 3 years. We don't know the intricacies. I didn't read the tell-all. It wasn't a tell-all book, because I'm certain she didn't put all the nasty details in there, but I'm certain that had to have had an effect on her. You can't live your life with a man who clearly doesn't love you. That goes back to the question. If a man really loves a woman and there are other women coming after him, a real man steps up and says, no, I'm not going to I cherish my relationship. I cherish my marriage enough that I'm not going to, the mother of my 4 children, putting her in psychological and emotional turmoil. And I'm going to jeopardize all of that just for some random ass. I mean, come on. You can't do that in a marriage and expect that woman to stay with you. Like, he totally did mess up. She gold star for her for sticking through that. And if she was really with him just for money, she'd still be married to him and wouldn't care. He can go sleep around with whoever. I don't care. No, she did what was psychologically and emotionally sound for her. It's a toxic relationship. Fidelity is very important in healthy relationships. We know this, you know, and that is what's important. You have to honor and respect your marriage enough to know this is something that I cherish. I'm not going to say anything, do anything to harm my next of kin. When you marry somebody, it is different from a girlfriend. That is your something happens to you, that's the person that's going to be asking. People don't understand the institution of marriage, and then marriage is supposed to be something serious. It is not a thing that you just do. You know, it's something where that person is there. You are one person. So his money is her money. Her money is his money. We want to get back to money, but it's not just that. You plan your life together, and you're committed to each other, and you're loyal to each other. That's another element of a healthy relationship. Nobody, no thing, no nothing should come between you and your partner. And if you allow instances where things come between you and the person that you married, that's when things fall apart. And so that's what Shaquille O'Neal was reflecting on and saying, you know what? I didn't put her first. I should have put her first. She's the mother of my 4 children, the only children he has. I don't think he has any other kids. So he did not do right by her. And that's okay for him to say this, because he's not the same person. We talked about transitions that all of us go through. He's more mature now. He's speaking as a man, as a grown man in his 50s, reflecting back when he wasn't very mature. And he understands that. And he's happy for his ex-wife and the love that she has, the genuine love that she has for her current husband. That is maturity. That is healthy. And that's the best way to love your children, is to love their parent is the best way.
Does it matter that he was an NBA player? Because I know that people say that like entertainers and NBA stars and they should get a pass because of the lifestyle that they chose, and women should just expect men to cheat on them and they stick around and stay because of the access that they have to women.
Here's the thing. If you want to have an open marriage, you need to talk about it.
Just say that.
You need to say this is an open marriage.
Yeah.
It has to be
respectful
and sanctioned. If she was to say, okay, look, they came down and had a conversation. This is where having open, honest communication is really key. You have a conversation and you agree upon the terms and the rules of the marriage, because all healthy relationships have rules, and you agree to whatever it is, then that's fine. You know, as long as everybody's on the same page. But if not, it gets into this place of toxicity where it's not healthy. And it's okay to love somebody from afar, if that's the case. You know, if you can't agree on the terms of your relationship, then you continue to work. I work with couples all the time. We're sitting here trying to say, okay, what are the conditions of this relationship? What are the boundaries that you decide to not go there with? And you have this conversation, and that's how you love and cherish your next of kin. I think people need to understand that's your next of kin.
It is. That's who's calling if anything should happen to me. Mr. Key, come get your wife. Because that's all I got.
Right?
Hey, if you're just tuning in, you're watching Fly Nubian Queen Money, where we help Black women master their mindset and maximize their money. And our wonderful co-sponsors, our wonderful sponsors at the Black Business School help support us in this venture by offering a free AI stock list curated by financial experts to help you navigate the changing landscape of the market. It's so simple to get this information, everybody. All you got to do is text Queens to 87948 to receive your free investment list today. If you are just now joining us, you're watching Fly Nubian Money. My name is Laura Lala Key, and I'm joined by my co-queens, Athena, Dr. Alicia, Linda, and Tiara. So, Tiara, I got a question for you now, because you're in film. So, with this being said, and we know that Shaunie has with the reality TV thing, and then she went ahead and they did the power couple thing when they got married. Do you feel that people who are in the media field like this feel that they're obligated to share certain parts of their lives as a reality story?
Oh, I'm sorry. I was muted again. They're not obligated. You're not obligated to share anything that you don't want to share. But I think that what is a common thread in TV is people are looking for ways to monetize their brand, the quickest ways to monetize a brand and create a brand. So if that means being a little toxic sometimes, I remember sometimes I would be sitting with someone and doing an interview with someone and they would say, honey, what do you need to hear? Because I just want to give you what you need to hear so I can sell these t-shirts on Instagram. You know, like it was all about building a brand and being famous rather than actually wanting to really tell a story. So that's ultimately why I stopped working in reality TV, because I felt like I was contributing to a narrative that wasn't worth it.
Athena, is that something that you would be open to in a marriage? I mean, the reason I ask this question, guys, is because we're all here for a reason, right? We all love social media. We all love live video. We all love talking about the hot topics or educating our viewers on what we do. So why not, for us, would this not be an additional step to add more to our brand? So Athena, with you, is this something that you would like to build with a partner, or do you want to keep this part separate in your life?
As far as what, being a power couple or sharing businesses and things together?
Sharing businesses like in the open, like a reality setting.
Ooh, well, you know what? I don't know who might be watching. So, you know, I will never say never. So let me put that out. Let me put that out there. But for me, back to what I was saying earlier about the whole power couple thing and that whole visibility and the dangers of that being that your relationship just completely becomes about business and the love aspect may or may not be there. There has been situations where I've dated men who were in the NFL or boxing or in those type of arenas that had money. And I always feel for the women who are wives or girlfriends, because just my little brief little stint, I was just like, whoo, this is not for me. This is not for me, because a lot of the reality of their life is a lot of sadness. A lot of them don't have the respect that they want in those relationships. They're kind of just, for lack of better terms, have to put up with a lot. A lot of them are in therapy, on medication, just to get through a relationship. And I never wanted a relationship that would put me through anything like that. So I've always turned down certain things, to which like my brothers used to get onto me. I'm like, why would you do that? And I said, my self-respect is more important. And I just know myself. Like I would need someone who we have great respect for me and understanding, and not just about money. Now, can he be homeless? The answer is no. But the answer is no. But I also want to talk about this whole gold digger thing, because I've been reading the comments and everything like that. Should a woman be digging for pennies? Like what do you want? What makes sense in this economy with the inflation? What makes sense? Like I feel like a lot of people can get upset by that, because they're usually, for lack of a better, poor. But also, if you are questioning your ability to do something, just because you can't do something doesn't mean that you need to be upset with other people being able to do that. And I don't think Shaunie is a gold digger, because if she was, she would have married Pastor Keon, because he has less than her. So, that doesn't line up with the gold digger elevation mindset. I really do think that when it comes to these relationships, honestly, I know we briefly touched on it, but I would say any woman get into entertainment, music, any of those fields where the men are in those fields, I'm not saying that you need to accept bad behavior. Just expect for the majority, that is what it is. Unless you're getting like a Steph Curry or like maybe a LeBron or something like that. And who knows, they might have some NDAs floating around to keep their stuff on the wraps too. Who knows, at this point. But I do think that their divorce rate is like 95%. So unless you think that your relationship is within that unique 5%, maybe like a Jackie Christie and Doug, at least that 5%, you should be expecting some, for that not to be the ideal situation. Unfortunately, most of the men in those fields just do a lot of reckless behavior. My last thoughts, I also want to say that, when things like this happen, I think we can learn a lot from, women and their stories, and like support Shaunie's or read her book if you feel like there's some lessons learned there. I have never been married. I've been engaged before. 2 men have wanted to marry me. And I did, proper due diligence. I went to premarital counseling. Dr. Alicia, I don't know if you do that, but I went to premarital counseling, and I would suggest that for anyone, because it really highlighted, okay, we were not on the same page, and actually saved me from divorce. And I think that he was in the church, so he wanted me to go see a pastor. I was like, no, we seen a real therapist. I ain't none of your homeboys sitting in talking about his marriage. Okay, we need to see an actual therapist, because I think at the end of the day, regardless of what your goals are, because especially in America, we're so goal-oriented, individualistic, achieve. There is a point and a value in relationships where outside of the titles, the name, the money, what do we have? Do we have mutual respect? Do we have love? Are we creating joy? What is it do we have? Right?
Yeah.
What do we have? What are we creating together? What is our purpose together? And I think oftentimes that can get lost in the sauce when either one party or both parties are focusing on monetizing their relationships. Look at Jeezy. He getting divorced now. And part of the reason for his divorce, he said that, certain things weren't being prioritized, and she always wanted, to be on the gram and display their relationship, and certain values didn't align. So I think within all of that, to say we can learn a lot from whatever Shaunie's writing about, because she's talking about co-parenting, money, and I'm sure everything in between.
Right, which brings me to this here. I actually downloaded the table of contents for her book. And here is what she has in there. It's not just the Shaquille O'Neal thing everybody keeps focusing on. Her intro is Finding My Voice. Love and Relationships is where she actually talks about her previous relationship with Shaq. Family First, Career on My Terms, Overcoming Challenges, Empowering Others, Personal Growth and Self-Love, Faith and Spirituality, Living Undefeated, and Looking Forward to the next chapters of her life. And whether we come to a relationship with funds or not before, or you build together, you can start today by doing that. You don't always have to come and be empty-handed. You can start your financial life now. So if you're struggling in your financial life and you keep hearing how stocks can help you, but you don't know how, our sponsors at the Black Business School can assist you by offering a free AI stock list. It's curated by financial experts to help you navigate the changing landscape of the market. And all you have to do is to text Queens to 87948, and you too can go ahead and get started on your education for your financial life. As we wind down, ladies, if you're just joining us and if you missed any of this, you must go back and watch it from the beginning and make sure that you like, follow, and share this channel. We definitely talk about topics of the day to help you with your financial wealth, and we empower women. So you're watching Fly Nubian Money, and my name is Lala, and I'm joined by my co-queens, Alicia, Athena, Linda, and Tiara. And you can find us here Monday through Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern time. And we surely would hope that you join us, because these topics and these comments are hot. We love to hear what you've got to say. So whether you're watching it on replay or watching it live, we want to hear what you have to say. It makes for great conversation. So ladies, as we're winding up, our final thoughts on this, I'd like to hear, after you've talked to all of us today, what is your outcome of this book? How do you feel about if this is a tell-all or an uplifting story? I'm going to start with you, Linda. How are you feeling about this conversation today?
You know what? After you reading the table of contents, I don't feel like it is a tell-all book. I do feel like it's more like a memoir, but I still do think we need to be careful when it comes to releasing public information about certain elements of our personal lives, and just thinking about whether or not those statements are truly beneficial to the community, to us as a people, and just whether or not it's feeding into certain narratives. But I do wish Shaunie all the best. I hope her relationship, her marriage goes from strength to strength, and that all is well with her children and, just the whole family. If you would like to find me, I'm Linda E. I'm Linda E on Instagram. I am Linda E on TikTok, and my website is www.lindae.co.uk.
Fabulous. Athena, what are your final thoughts, and where can we find you?
My final thoughts, besides the men being spicy in the comments, honey, because some of the men in the comments are upset, honey. But my final thoughts is this. I think that Shaunie has every right to say her story. I think there's a lot of life lessons that can be learned about marriage, about co-parenting, clearly about love and what that looks like. And she has every right to give us a peek into her life and to monetize it. And I don't think she's a gold digger. Where you can find me, I'm Athena Gardner CPA. You can find me at We Wealth Woman or www.wewealthwoman.com. I'm the founder of We Wealth Woman, where we help women become the wealthy goddesses they deserve to be.
And putting crown jewels in their crowns. How about you, Tiara?
I don't know why I always need to unmute myself. I'm sorry about that. You can find me. As far as the conversation, I've just loved having this conversation with you all. You've given me so much perspective on, I've planned on reading it anyway, just like I read Jada Pinkett Smith's story. That was a thing. I'm just into that, right? Because I live where I live, and I love, like Alicia said, reading stories about winners. I love that because you can learn something from people's journeys. And so I plan to do just that. I can be found at Miss Black Hollywood. That's MSBLACK Hollywood on across all platforms.
Beautiful. And our lovely Dr. Alicia, what are your thoughts and where can we find you?
Yeah, so my thoughts today is that hats off to Shaunie for this wonderful memoir, just based on um, the titles of her the chapters in her book. I am going to download this book right now and I'm going to read it. I think she's made herself vulnerable, and I think in that vulnerability, there's immense power that comes from that. And I think that she's sharing a story that all of us can connect to. And, you know, as a therapist, the biggest thing is empathy. And there's the wonderful way to develop empathy for other people is to read their story and what they went through, what was going through their mind when they made the decisions that they made. It's a shared human experience. And I think that by opening up our own journeys and opening up her journey, it invites all of us to see aspects of ourselves and our own experiences that we can relate to. It's a very powerful, and I think it's very encouraging and very powerful. So I love memoirs. I'm going to look at it, and you can find me at Coaching with Dr. Alicia on all platforms. Instagram. Well, my platforms are Instagram and TikTok, basically. So you can find me there. My website is coachingwithdralicia.com if you're interested in having an empathetic ear today and being able to share your stories. And by the way, I work with a lot of clients who are interested in writing memoirs. And they say, you know, I want to write memoir. I want to tell my story. And I'm like, okay, let's take some time and let's process all of these experiences that you've had, and let's talk about how you've overcome them in a way that makes sense, that can help the public. And she's done that today. So hats off to her. Thank you guys for inviting me in today. This has been fun.
We love having you.
Goodbye, everyone. Okay.
So I think that what we begin in our life purpose, our life journey, always oftentimes looks different when we are further down in that road. We may start off as one thing, but find that our purpose takes us in a different direction. And that's not a bad thing. If that means that someone is no longer in your life, it doesn't necessarily mean you have to tear them down either. They're living their life journey as well. And isn't that what this life is all about? I always like to say, be the light. Out of your struggles, you can help someone else in their story. So make it a point that you share your stories to those who may seem hopeless at a time, when it can uplift them to the next level. I love how Shaunie's did this. It's a very tasteful book, and it's very, very uplifting for others to see that you don't have to stay in the dark. Just because you accept something one day doesn't mean it's acceptable the next. I am Laura Lalaki, also known as the Realty Goddess. I help to educate and motivate generational wealth through home ownership. And you can find me at bit.ly/Laura Key Info. Ladies, that's a wrap. Thank you for joining us here today on Fly Nubian Queen Money. You can see us Monday through Friday at 1 p.m. Don't miss it, because we good. We so good. We worth your time. Go back and watch the other ones if you missed the other ones, because we really missed some great topics this week. We hope that we have helped empower and inspire you and to take charge of your financial future. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you again soon. Bye.
Bye.